We tend to think of emotional triggers as something that arises in our romantic relationships. That tends to be where they're most intense and really in your face, but they arise all the time in life situations. Anytime we're being asked to take a step out of our comfort zone, which hopefully is something we experience throughout life because that's how we grow, we will feel that contraction inside. There will be something inside that doesn't relax in the face of this new step that we're being invited to take. And then we might shrink back because it feels too uncomfortable. We don't know what to do with that. So if we don't understand that we're encountering a trigger, which is contracted energy in the energy field of the body that is contracting because there's a prior experience that makes it scary to step into this new possibility, then we might hang back for a long time and not do that next thing. I had a client who's a brilliant writer, and she was invited to speak on stage about her book at a book fair. And she was terrified of public speaking, of getting up in front of a group of people. So the first time that invitation came, she hired an actress to do it for her. And her excuse to everyone was she'll do it better. She has a better voice. I'm kind of busy. And the second time she was invited, she said she had a prior engagement. So she didn't have to confront that fear of getting up there. And it was such a brilliant opportunity because her books are and were brilliant and needed to get out there and people wanted to meet her. But she kind of figured out a way to slink out of it. And then the third time she was invited, that's when she came to me and she said, I can't turn it down again. And it wasn't even so much about the book fair. She probably could have come up with some excuse, but it was her husband. She felt like I'm just too embarrassed. He knows I've been invited and I'm too embarrassed to turn it down again. And yet I'm terrified to do it. So what do I do? So we went through the same process that I take everyone through who comes to me with emotional triggers that are coming up, whether in relationships, professionally, or in a family setting. And as we tuned into the body together and we really got quiet enough to really hear where is it in the body, what is contracting, and what does this remind you of? What is it that's happening here? And it's not always that you're going to be able to extract the story of what happened. Sometimes you'll simply want to just be with whatever feels contracted, the pit in the stomach, the lump in the throat, the tightness in the chest. And that alone, just bringing loving awareness and presence to it, will start to soften it to where that next step will feel less scary because it doesn't feel like we're being choked to death by our own energy that's contracting like a straitjacket around us. But in this case, she was able to tap into a knot in the stomach that was showing up when she thought of what it would be like to stand on the stage. And we asked, so what does this remind you of? What is here? What is there a prior experience where this feeling came up? Is this feeling new? Is this feeling something that you have experienced before? And she said, yeah, this reminds me of a time when her dad had made a very unkind comparison between her and her brother when they were both speaking at a little school event. And since then, she shut down and she simply felt like that's not something I can do. And she had been so embarrassed by this judgment. And I don't even think the dad had meant it in a very harsh way, the way it came across. But for her, it was like had literally prevented her from speaking about her own book for years. Now, once she had been with that contracted place inside and allowed that story to flow, and there were some tears, even though this happened when she was like 10 years old. After that, suddenly the idea of standing on a stage just wasn't quite as frightening because it wasn't accompanied by that same degree of contraction. You could say the charge of the trigger had lessened enough that it seemed like, oh, I think I'll be able to breathe doing it. That doesn't mean she had absolutely no butterflies stepping up on that stage, but she did. And she emailed me after she had done it, and it had been okay, and she had gotten really positive feedback, and she said she felt like she could do that again if the opportunity arose. So Working with the emotional triggers reaches far beyond our most personal, intimate relationships. It's really anything you would love to do in your life, but that you're not doing, that next step you're not taking. If you check in with your body, you will notice that the reason you're not taking it is because something is contracting in the energy field of the body. And when you can be with that, and that is what we learn in the Heal What Hurts process, you become free. You can move through contraction after contraction, limitation after limitation, once you know what to do with it, not in the like power through and just do it even though you're scared. No, be with the fear with great empathy and compassion, so that in the energy of that compassion, it starts to melt, it starts to loosen, it starts to lessen. And then it doesn't hold such power over you that it actually prevents you from fully living your life and really doing your beautiful, creative, wild, imaginative thing in the world. So that's all to say. Pick up my book, really, Heal What Hurts. It is going to teach you the tools you need to rid yourself of all the places in the body that contracts and keep you trapped in fear, when really you're here to soar.